got a wedding audience here today, right?
Yeah.
Who here uses, who here, when you're shooting, obviously we're needing to use some sort of lighting right there. I don't know any natural light wedding photographers.
Oh, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oof, that's tough. That's a tough one. Who here uses flashes at the wedding? Run and gun flashes, okay? All right. What about leveling up a little bit? Who here is using strobes? Okay, a few are. So you're in the right class.
We have a room full of experts. I'm intimidated.
We have a class. I mean, I think, I'm scared to shoot weddings. I did it a few times, but it was light that failed me. I couldn't control the light. You know, and back then when I was doing them, it was just little lights that you just couldn't control. You couldn't control them, you couldn't control the lighting scenario. But the more you can control that in a wedding, just the better it's gonna be, results all the way around. We're really excited Sarah Edmunds, to have Sarah Edmunds here. She wins the prize for traveling the farthest for a speaker to come to Bild. She's on her honeymoon right now. No, wait.
I actually am.
She's on her honeymoon.
Is my honeymoon.
Recently married, a wedding photographer who recently got married. Give her a round of applause for that, yes. And she traveled all the way to Italy. She's got this pretty good gig. She kind of owns this lake out there, I think. Right?
Yeah. Let's say that,
and she does destination weddings. The destination is her.
Yeah.
And where she lives in Italy, Lake Garda?
Lake Garda, yeah.
Lake Garda.
Yeah.
So that's the big tip, is to find a beautiful place to live in.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
So I met Sarah at the Portrait Masters conference earlier this year. I was blown away by her work, her openness to share that. And you know, when we were discussing what we were going to do here at Bild, I said we got to involve Sarah. Reached out to her, and she was on board like that, even though she knew it's probably a little stressful time of the weddings
Straight
and this
after
and
the
that,
wedding.
exactly at that. But you know, let's come on, and we really are so thankful for you to share your vision, to share your lighting. This is also sponsored by Godox, who shout out to Godox. Sarah's been shooting their lights for
7 years, 8 years, yeah.
Yep, and she's going to share all the different tips with you on bringing the studio lighting to the wedding. So.
Thank you very much. What an introduction. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Yes, bringing studio lighting to the wedding. My name is Sarah Edmunds, and I help photographers overcome their fear of lighting. Is anybody afraid of lighting? See, we've got a few hands going up. I'm a little bit like this, afraid to even admit you're afraid of lighting. Well, I'm here to help you get over that, I hope. And hopefully, I'm here to help you realize just what added value you can bring to your wedding work. Well, I already saw that we've got a lot of wedding photographers here in the audience, which is great. As Gabe just said, I just got married myself, and for the first time, I realized what it was like being on the other side of the camera. And I had just some guy photograph my wedding, Jerry Guionis. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah. So, yeah, Jerry Guionis photographed my wedding, and it made me realize even more. I already felt that, but being on the other side of the camera really made me feel like what an absolute honor and privilege it is to be part of this incredibly special day. And it's such a difficult discipline. I shoot all kinds of other things, which I will talk about in a second. I just want to talk very, very quickly about who I am, because some of you might be thinking, who the heck is this chick with a British accent on stage, and why is she in Italy? So I'm British. I was born in Wales, and I moved to Italy a zillion years ago. I'm here with my daughter, who has come with me on my honeymoon. I left the husband behind, and I brought my daughter on honeymoon. And yeah, I've been living in Italy for a very long time, and I started photographing pretty late in life. I was nearly 40. I was about 38 when I picked up a camera for the first time. And I realized it was such an expensive hobby, I needed to start earning money ASAP. Who else identifies with that? Yeah, right. So within 6 months, I was shooting my first professional wedding. My second wedding was published in lots of prestigious magazines. I have no idea how that happened. I think maybe the venue knew people, but that kind of got me kick-started, and I was away very, very quickly. Apart from that, I photograph portrait, wedding, commercial, fashion, and beauty, and I also teach a lot. I teach online and in person. And I'm also a retoucher. I edit and retouch for photography studios around the world. There you can see my websites and Instagram at Sarah Edmunds Photographer, so give me a like and a follow, and I would love to hear from you. A few other things. I'm very passionate about print competition. I don't have a formal education in photography, but entering print competition, I don't know if you've heard about such a thing, but it really helped me improve my photography. So I just want to give a shout out to the Icon Awards run by Jerry and Melissa Guionis. If you would like to start entering competition, I highly recommend it. It really helped me elevate my game. In the UK, I've been Photographer of the Year 6 times, which has really been fantastic PR for my business. So iconawards.com, go and enter, give it a try. You get feedback from some of the best photographers in the business. I am a Godox ambassador. I was a passionate Godox shooter for at least 5 years before they approached me to be their ambassador, and I was like, heck yes. They changed my lighting game at weddings. It was so frustrating beforehand. Things just didn't work, and when I started shooting Godox, they just did. And I'll tell you who recommended them to me. It was a wedding photographer who used to be the lighting director for the BBC. So I reached out to him and I said, what do you recommend for lighting? And he just said, Godox. Just go straight to Godox, the AD200s, amazing. And from that point on, I was away. It really changed things. I'm also a Canson Infinity ambassador, and I'm very proud to be involved with Imagine AI. So if you would like to edit like me, you can. You can go to Imagine AI, and if you find me after this session in the meet and greet, I will give you a QR code for 1,500 free edits on me, okay? So if you want that, if you want to give that a try, come and find me. So I'm known mainly for my portrait and commercial work and creative work as well. I do shoot, or at least I used to when I had time. I used to shoot a lot for fun. I also shoot for Godox. So they give me license to be very creative and use their lights in ways that shows off their lighting. But I also shoot weddings, and I was delighted when B&H asked me to come and teach weddings, because that's not usually what I teach. I usually teach retouching and editing. So I'm delighted to be able to talk about weddings, because I am still a jobbing wedding photographer. I also do retouching. So I'm absolutely sure that you'll be looking at some of my pictures going, how much Photoshop is going on here? So I want to say absolutely. Sometimes it's a lot, just like this picture here. You can see the before and after. There's a lot of work that went into that, at least 5 or 6 hours. But most of my wedding work is not retouched at all. I edit in Lightroom. So my work it goes from not retouched at all to retouched a lot. I shoot Sony A7. I have 2 A7R3s. So when I'm shooting weddings, I have 1 on each hip. And my favorite lens for weddings is the 70-200. And I usually have the 50 on the other hip. And my second shooter, who's also my husband, uses the 35. The 85 I tend to keep for portraits. My Godox lighting equipment. I have all the Godox lighting equipment, obviously because I'm an ambassador. But before I was an ambassador, I was a huge fan of the AD200 Pros, and I'm going to be talking a lot about those because they're perfect for weddings and with some of the smaller lights. This is my wedding lighting kit, okay? So I literally have it up here. I ripped this off the Godox stand about half an hour ago. So this is my 300-watt studio light, okay? So this is a studio power light that I have in my case, and I pulled this out for various shots that I'm going to show you. Oh, this is my baby. These are, you could pry these from my cold dead hands. I would not part with them. I used to have 3. One got stuck in a thunderstorm that wasn't just a thunderstorm. They call them water bombs in Italy, when the sky just opens and it literally got so drenched that it died. But the other 2 I've had for 2017. I bought them when they were first launched, and they're still going strong. They last me the whole wedding and more, and I also use them in the studio. So these I just absolutely love. And then there's this little cutie, which is the size and the weight of a soda can. And I use this at weddings as well. And I also use it in the studio. And I'm going to give you a link later on to the Godox tutorials where I show how I lit a whole studio shoot just with this little baby here. My wedding lighting kit for modifiers. I'm showing you these two. So there's the bigger 85 centimeter collapsible softbox, but I usually use the smaller one just for convenience. It's lighter, it's smaller, it's about yay big, and it just folds up like an umbrella. It's really fast to pop up and pop down. There are also some magnetic accessories that you can put on. The AD200 also comes with a round head attachment, so you can just pop on those adapters. But I tend to make life simple, and I just shoot bareheaded. In my studio, I do have additional modifiers, much bigger dishes, my beauty dish, which I absolutely love, and probably the one I use the most is that 120 meter softbox with the grid. And I also love the lantern. The lantern provides this 360 light, and all of the light bounces off the white ceilings and walls of my studio and provides this beautiful fill, so I'm a big fan of that one as well. Now, light shaping, what I'm going to be talking about today is the mixture of lighting situations that I use in weddings. Now, ambient light, that means daylight, natural light, or just the lights that are on in the room. Enhanced, which is my favorite, which is the ambient light with a little bit of enhancement with the flash. And then we've got pure strobe, okay? So no ambient light whatsoever, no natural light, nothing seeping in, just pure strobe. These are the three things that we're going to be talking about today. The example here is a shot I did during a live teaching segment on YouTube. And this is obviously just pure strobe and just shows how you can get a little bit creative. I'm sure I could possibly do something like that at a wedding as well. So I have my camera set up to be super, super easy to switch between settings, okay? I'm not going to tell you what a particular image was shot at because there is really no point in you knowing that information. It really doesn't matter for a specific shot what the ISO was, the shutter speed, and the aperture. Because every situation is different. So what might have worked for that particular shot wouldn't work for another one. However, if your camera has the little memory, the little 1, 2, 3, or M1, M2, M3, and you're not using those memory recall options, I strongly recommend you do. It means that during a wedding, I can just flip from one to the other very quickly. I have my ambient light setting. So when I'm just shooting natural light, I am shooting aperture priority because I'm usually at f2 or thereabouts. I might vary that, but that's the look that I love, and it's the sweet spot for the sharpness of the lenses, for me, for my lens. I use the E-shutter, so the electronic shutter, so that everything is silent, because I like my guests and my bride and groom to relax completely, and if they can hear the clicking, that used to be something that they would always hear, and they would turn to look at me, whereas now with the silent shutter, I can become like a ninja, and they say that after even a few minutes, after 10 minutes, they just kind of forget that I'm there. And dun, 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 I admit I love auto ISO. Game changer, oh my God. Auto ISO means that I no longer have to worry about stopping to change my ISO when I go from a dark church out into the bright sunlight. I've ruined more than a few images when everything was just moving so fast. And I overexposed the image because I was still on ISO 1600 from inside the church. Auto ISO saves my bacon on a daily basis, and so when I'm shooting natural light, I absolutely love it. So that's my #1 setting. Then, when I want to use flash, I need to come off the electronic shutter and I need to go manual. But again, I don't want to mess around. I don't want to be futzing with the settings and missing what's going on. I'm constantly watching and scanning to see what's going on. So I just quickly switch my settings, and my enhanced settings is set up for what I would shoot, let's say, when things are getting a little bit darker and we need a little bit of extra light. So I usually start off with manual, between F2 and F4, depending on the situation, an 80th shutter speed, which lets that ambient light come through, so you can get the ambiance. You don't want to have that kind of flash look where everything else is pitch black and dark. And ISO 800, and that's my starting point. I'm not going to stick with that. That's just my starting point, and then I will adjust from there. Then if I'm going to shoot pure strobe and I don't want any ambient light coming in, for example, in my studio, I have a daylight studio, there's plenty of light, but with these settings, Manual, I start at f2.8, I might go to f4. 200th of a second shutter speed is usually enough to block out most of the natural light. That's not going to work so much with very, very bright sunlight. And ISO 100, okay? So that's my pure strobe setting. Now, the 3Ds, this is what I came up with to remember the fundamentals of lighting, okay? These three things. I'm not going to be talking today about technicalities or light meters, okay? You can relax, I'm not going to talk about that, although there are some fantastic educators who are very technical and they talk about those things. I had to get my head around light in a different way. And the 3Ds are the fundamentals that you need to remember: direction, diffusion, and distance. Direction. Direction is how we create light and shadows on our subject. That's how we shape the light. Painters use light direction to carve out the subject's faces and the features. Direction is also very important because nowhere on the planet does the sun shine from below us, okay? So we have to remember this, and it sounds obvious, but I edit for many, many different photographers around the world, and I can see that very often they light too low. The light is too low, the shadows are going horizontal, okay? Our brains are wired since the day we were born. We have been seeing faces with the shadows falling downwards. So what happens when you take a flashlight and you shine it from underneath your face? Okay, we call it spooky horror lighting, Halloween lighting, right? Why? Because it's all wrong. So our brain goes, ah, this is scary, this is wrong. So if you do that to your clients, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to have, even if they don't perceive it, even if they don't understand, okay, the lighting is wrong here, they will perceive that something is wrong. Diffusion simply means the softboxes, the grids, the things that we put between the light and the subject in order to shape and soften mainly the shadow fall off, okay? So, for example, if we think of hard sunlight, we've got very hard shadows. If we have a very, very large softbox, feathered, we're going to have very, very soft light fall off. Soft is not always better. You can choose hard or soft light accordingly. And distance. So during weddings, this distance is my cheat way to just quickly lower or increase the power. Okay, if the light is too bright, instead of messing around with my trigger or messing around with my camera settings, I simply just pull the light back a little bit, okay? Now it's true that the distance of the light from the subject affects the hardness or the softness of the shadows, but just a few feet is not going to make a big difference. Let me give you an example. The sun is huge, but the sun is so far away that in relation to us, the sun is a tiny little speck in the sky, therefore it causes a very hard light. Conversely, if you have a small softbox, but you have it very, very close to the subject and placed in front, it's going to cause a very soft light. Okay, so it's not, you don't need to have a big, huge 2-meter softbox in order to have soft light. Usually, I've seen people do that, buy these huge softboxes and then place them 4 meters away. Well, you might as well have had a smaller softbox and just had it closer to the subject. So ambient light. Now, I have been shooting weddings for 12 years-ish, and I started off exclusively with natural light, or the available light that I had around me. It's a very popular way of shooting in Italy. Lots of Italian photographers just shoot natural light. And there is nothing wrong with that. I've seen people carve out some incredible weddings with that. You do have to be very, very lucky when it comes to what you're given, though, what that available light is. And I'm going to show you some examples. So when it does work, I love it. This is a wedding from many years ago. But this is an example of how the ambient light can work. It is coming from below, it's true, but it's a rim light, and it was just a beautiful moment. It's totally candid, unposed. She didn't even know I was taking the picture. And this available light I love. I certainly would not have wanted to have a flash ruining that ambiance. This is another one. Just sometimes a window is all we need. The window is the softbox, and it was just a perfect way to get a lovely portrait just before she went and walked down the aisle, just after she was getting ready. This is another just brief captured moment. I was walking with the bride and groom. The light just felt really, really sumptuous, and there was a covered shade. The light had gone down. It was sundown, and there was just this beautiful light. This is just a beautiful portrait that doesn't need any additional lighting. This is another window light only image. I did do, the one that we just saw before, I did no retouching at all. This one has a lot of retouching on because I wanted to give it a fine art look, just so all of the surroundings. I just wanted to make this something that would fit in her album, which was all printed on fine art. It was all matted, extremely luxurious, and this was a portrait that I really wanted to work on. And here's an example of pure strobe, but it looks very similar in style and in lighting as this one. This is just pure strobe with one single light. So why not rely on ambient light when we shoot weddings? Why not just make life easier, turn up with our little compact mirrorless, now the mirrorless cameras are so light and easy. You could even shoot the whole wedding on a single 15mm lens if you wanted to, or if you have a 24-70, that would be more than enough. Why drag all of this stuff with me? Although all of this stuff, honestly, it's so light and easy to deal with. It's, you know, and these batteries last not just the wedding. I can shoot the wedding with the batteries and then a studio session the day after. It's really incredible. Necessity is one, okay? So as Gabe mentioned before, sometimes we just don't have the light there. Sometimes we've got a bride tossing her bouquet in pitch black. Sometimes, I'm going to show you some examples of the available ambient light and why it doesn't work. Control is another thing. Remember I was talking about direction on the face. Okay, the direction of that lighting is so important in crafting a beautiful portrait, and a wedding is no exception. At a wedding, we need our bride and groom and the guests to look absolutely fantastic. If the mother of the bride does not look good, no one's going to be happy, trust me. Number 3 is creativity. So you can start to get really creative if you have the time and the inclination to insert that as well in your wedding. So here's an example of me relying on ambient light early on in my career. This was a very luxurious location in Lake Como. Absolutely stunning, incredible place. You would probably, if we could see it, we would recognize it. Unfortunately, we just had a spotlight on the dance floor that they'd moved out of, and I was relying on the videographer's video light. And the couple were delighted. They loved their images, but I knew at this point, okay, I really need to step my game up. I was not at all happy with being absolutely victim to whatever the venue made available to me. And if we zoom in, we can see that what happens if you go really high ISO. Okay, I've turned it to black and white, but we're losing the quality. And this beautiful moment, had I been able to lit it properly, just would have been a different kettle of fish. This is another one. So this one is actually, this kind of look is quite popular at the moment, that slightly blurry black and white look. But the actual fact was that this moment, although I managed to capture it, it was actually very dark, and there were candles leading to the venue. So as the bride and groom ran up, it was the atmosphere was very evocative. And so what I've had to do is just simply raise the exposure in Lightroom, add a little bit of grain to make it look cool with the black and white. But the sky looks like it's almost daylight, whereas actually it was really quite dark. So I feel like I've captured the moment, but I lost something of the atmosphere. The LED lights, oh my God. So this is super popular right now. It looks fantastic, it's great fun, but as photographers, it's a nightmare. This was from the same wedding. They just said, oh, can we just get a shot with the bouquet and the rings? And I was like, yeah, okay. In the end, I think I decided I tried it black and white, but you can see that the LED light is burning out everything, and it was just, you know, again, I was just like, I need to step up my game. So step in enhanced light. And when do I use enhanced light? I use natural light for most of the day, the preparations, the ceremony, sometimes the group, sometimes the portraits. It really depends on the light I have available and what the sun is doing, where we are, the location. But if I do use enhanced light, it will be during the portraits, during groups, not always, but sometimes it's necessary, and I'll explain when. And the reception is when we can really take our work to the next level. Enhanced light for portraits. So this is a bride and groom session that we did on the top of Monte Baldo, just above Lake Garda. So this is not composited. The paragliders are actually there. The light was actually, everything there is in camera. I did barely anything in post-production, but I do have my studio light with me. So I just brought up my camera and a little bag with a light stand and a collapsible softbox. This is another example of when I'm placed in a situation whereby the couple have traveled to me. As Gabe said, you know, I'm the destination, so they come to me, and they travel a long way, and the location is everything to them. It's super important that I am able to capture the lake and the setting. So I can't just go and take them underneath a tree and do their portraits there. I have to place them in sometimes the most brutal lighting conditions. So here I've got this very, very strong sunlight as the rim light, and I've got a neutral density filter to allow me to get the most power out of my light, because you can see that I've got a shallow depth of field there to give that look. I wanted to have everything kind of blur out in the background. And I've literally just placed the light 180 degrees from where the sun is. And that's usually 45 degrees from the couple, usually just camera left or camera right. In this case, it's camera left. And we're just balancing out this beautiful sunlight. And it looks like a studio shot, but it's on Lake Garda. This is another example of times when I take my studio light and I just give a very, very subtle pop of light. So most people think that this is natural light. And it is mainly, but I am controlling the light and the way that the light falls on the faces because I want them to look fabulous. So we've got the bride on the left, we've got the bride and groom on the right, and I did a fashion shoot there as well. With the fashion shoot, I just popped an AD200 behind her so that I could use my aerosol in a can. I don't know if anybody watched Chris Knight yesterday, but he was talking about how he adds atmosphere using haze, and I had my little aerosol with me in my bag, and I used that. But you need light behind it. You need the backlight in order for that to show. I don't usually have time to do that at a wedding. So this is an example of when I expose for the face. On the left, we've got just ambient, and on the right, we've got studio lighting with the lake as our backdrop. Now, you can absolutely just expose for the face and let the background just white out. And I love that look. I really love it. It looks light and airy and clean, bright and fresh, and it also hides stuff that might be out of the window that maybe you don't want to see. In this case, however, we needed to see that lake, and so I pulled out my studio light, quickly set it up, and I do not take my couples away for an hour and a half or 2 hours. My sessions with the couples are usually no more than half an hour, sometimes 10 minutes. So, but I managed to make it work with the lighting that I have. Same location, same situation. Bride wanted the setting to be as important as she is. So I used my studio lighting to fight the very, very strong light that was coming from the west. A sunset, just exposed for the sunset, nice and dark. The couple would have been completely black, and then I used my softbox to light them just as if I was in the studio. I wish. Almost. I live on the other side of the lake, but yeah. This was the couple on the mountain top, and all of a sudden, the light did this. Okay, this is no light whatsoever. This is just ambient, absolutely gorgeous. And I love the silhouette, amazing. The silhouette is gorgeous, but I can't do the whole shoot in silhouette, right? So lucky I had my light with me, and I was able to light them and also maintain this gorgeous glow of the lake behind. This is the same couple that we saw earlier, again, showing a little bit more of the lake. As you can see, my goal here is not to allow the flash to overpower the subject too much. I want it to look a little bit natural. I don't want people to look at that and think, oh, that's strobed. Here's an example of when I didn't use the strobe and I just exposed for their faces, and again, I let the background wash out. Looks great, and I love the way that the leaves are framing them, but where are they? They came to Lake Garda from, I think it was Latvia. So they came specifically for the shoot on Lake Garda, and I can't give them just pictures like this. They loved this picture, but only because I had all of the ones with the lake. So here I've got my professional studio light that I had with me and the neutral density filter in order to be able to use that shallow depth of field, and now we can see the lake, and it just gives a completely different effect. And in my opinion, it's just that little bit more polished and professional. I use the same setup and the same locations for fashion shoots and weddings. So this is the private island, Isola del Garda in Lake Garda. It's the most stunning, incredible, neo-Gothic mansion. Actually, a family lives in there. There's a British countess who lives in there with her family, and they rent it out for weddings. But otherwise, it's a private island. It's the most stunning place. Look it up and visit if you can. This is the loggia, so that the covered terrace of the island, and couples always want a picture here, but I need that light to be able to really fill the room and to be able to counteract that the bright light that's coming from the lake. So you can see that without the light, it's just black. And if I'd had just an on-camera flash, firstly, it wouldn't have lit the room, and it also would have looked very paparazzi style on them, which is not the style of the place. This is a great example of a beautiful sky came in. The couple said, quick, 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 please take a picture with the sky. And I knew that just without a light, I would not get it. The camera doesn't have the dynamic range that our eyes have. Our eyes can constantly adjust and perceive massive dynamic range because our brains are constantly processing it. The camera can't do that. I knew that would happen, so I quickly took the shot, and then I told my second shooter, my husband Dario, to just quickly get the AD300 up. He quickly popped it up, and a minute later we took the shot on the right, and we were able to capture that sky and also have them look like they're in a studio. So if you want to watch the behind the scenes, this is the link, so go ahead and capture that, and then afterwards you can watch it. Also I've got 8 episodes out at the moment of lighting tutorials on the Godox channel, so please watch, give us a friendly comment. That would be lovely, because YouTube can be an unfriendly place, so I always appreciate nice comments. So I will run very quickly through groups. Groups really helps me take my shots to a level that is higher than the Uncle Bob's behind me, because there's always lots of those. They usually have a better camera than me, but they don't have the flash trigger. So I'm able to light the groups, and I'm able to get something that nobody else can deliver. Here, there were these 3 beautiful couples who had renewed their vows in Verona. We were walking through the town. There was this incredible storm coming, and luckily my assistant had her light on a boom arm. Group shots are essential. In order to fight with the light that's usually backlit, I usually try and make sure that the sun is behind the group. And in this case, in this particular venue, this is another island that's in a different lake, in the Italian lakes. And here we've just got I tried to persuade them to, let's go over here in front of the hedge. There's a beautiful soft light, it's covered shade. They weren't having it. They wanted to be in front of the lake. So out comes the strobe, and I was able to light them and make them look wonderful. They were so happy with this picture. Let me just... This couple decided at midnight that they would like to do group shots, having told me earlier that they did not want group shots. So luckily, I found this little seated area. It was pitch black, and I pulled out my AD300 Pro and the softbox, and we did an impromptu studio session. Happy clients. Reception is when it really starts to come together. So this is the kind of lighting at receptions. And it looks fantastic. It's funky. It's exciting. But look at the light on the people sitting at the tables. It's not doing anything for them at all. So I need these people to look great in their pictures. Otherwise, everybody's going to be unhappy. Check this out. This is what we're dealing with. So this is my second shooter. You can see me there in the corner taking, I've got the trigger, so I'm shooting with the flash. My second shooter is just getting ones with the neon, but they're unusable. We can't print these. The color, that magenta is just completely blocked out. These are fun to keep, but they're unusable, especially when it comes to print. This is how I set up the lighting. It's a very simple 3-point lighting setup. So we've got the top table there, you can see. The father of the bride is standing up to make a speech. I've got two 8200s, very high up and pointing down, as high up as possible and pointing down. Remember, up and down so that the light falls downwards. And then over, just behind me, where I'm shooting, I've got the third light. So I've got like a triangle of light. Here you can see, without any flash, I'm just using ambient light on the left, and everything looks cold and flat and a little bit office-like. That's not what it felt like at the time. So what I was able to do with the lighting is very subtly create dimension with those 3 lights. I'm creating dimension, and I'm able to capture the ambience and the warmth of the atmosphere. Again, here we can see that the bridesmaids and the groomsmen has gone over the other side of the room, which wasn't lit, in order to make their speeches unexpectedly, so we had to improvise. But you can see this lovely moment that's lit properly with the very disapproving lady looking on at her husband drinking. I love catching those moments. So this 3-dimensional lighting in receptions is something that I love. And you can see as well that in the reactions, for example, the father of the groom here at the top, he's looking towards the light. Now, if I'd had just the flash on my camera, that light would have been coming to the side of his face, and that doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense that the light is coming from the direction that he's looking at. So it just raises this, a simple scene into something that just looks a little bit more professional. And when you have the light set up like this, you can capture incredible moments like this one, when the father of the bride decided to shake up the champagne bottle, spray the bride and groom before they actually cut the cake, drench them, and then he slugged down the rest of the champagne. So I was shooting like that, and then sixth sense told me I should check out what he was up to, and so I just turned around and got that shot. This is me in action. It's midnight, okay, so I'm looking a bit rough. So here you can see that there's beautiful fairy lights, okay, but everything looks a little bit flat. It just doesn't look as glamorous as they intended, okay? And it did look glamorous, but the iPhone is just not capturing that. You can see I've got my 8200 and my 8100 pointing down. And this is the result. Okay, so now it's looking much more professional. It's looking glamorous. The people look great. We've got crisp images. And we're able to capture moments. And the whole of the reception was like this. So we've got an hour at least of everybody at that wedding laughing, enjoying themselves, and looking amazing with this incredible setting. They were delighted. Without the lighting, I would not have been able to do that. I would not have been able to bring that home. Remember these guys? Okay, so how do we clean up this lighting? With flash, okay? There's no gels, there's no nothing. I just need the flashlight, and I need it to be balanced so that I can see that you can see the lead, the yellow lead that's bleeding through. We've got the atmosphere, but the flash is providing the 3-dimensionality and the good skin tones. That's really important. And also it's crisp enough to capture all of those moments. Here's a great moment when the groom decided to grab the mic and start singing to his bride. You can see the available light, okay? It's uplit, it's magenta, which is great for this particular shot because he's singing a rock song. That's absolutely fine. If you like the mother of the bride or the bride like this, we're in trouble. So this is how I lit the reception. Again, the 3-point lighting system. we're covering everything. I'm able to turn around and shoot. Now, I do have sometimes, not always, but sometimes an on-camera flash as well, but it's very, very low, okay? Because I don't want the main flash to be coming from me. I want it to have that three-dimensionality. But the on-camera flash is triggering those other flashes, okay? And it's providing a little pop of light. And when it's very, very dark, there's a guide light, there's a pilot light that is allowing me to focus. Okay, when it gets really dark and your camera can't focus, that is a real lifesaver. And in a situation like this, we decided to go up to a different level in the building and shoot down. They were all dancers and performers, and they did a whole Bridgerton-style choreographed dance, and we shot it from above. This three-point lighting system, which you can see here, is lighting up the whole area while still keeping the ambiance. And again, when it comes to things like throwing bouquets, if I just had on-camera flash, then all of those ladies in the background would have been completely dark and lost, and the bride would have been really bright. Have you ever seen that, when you see the person who's closest to the camera being too bright and you're not getting everybody else? That is solved by this. So I just wanted to end the presentation with a little kind of presentation showing my work, my wedding work and my portrait work, using ambient, enhanced light, and pure strobe. And I'm willing to bet that you won't be able to guess correctly which is which, not always. So this is bringing it together.
Got a heavy load that's trying to break my mind. Can you tell me what you see? Maybe help me up this wall that's been blocking me. Hey, hey, getting closer every day. Hey, hey, getting closer every day. See myself where I need to be. This voice inside is my only guide. Gonna make sure I'm heard. Hey, hey, getting closer every day. Hey, hey, getting closer every day.
Thank you. Please be sure to join my Love Edits Facebook group. We talk about lighting as well as editing and retouching if you're interested in learning retouching. And I'm also going to be launching a lighting online bootcamp, which is live with me once a week. It's a format that works really well when it comes to lighting. So if you would be interested in signing up to join the next round of that, please find me afterwards and I will give you the code and a massive discount.
Woo! Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
We've got time for a couple questions. First hand I saw come up here.
Yeah, the shots you took where they were overlooking the lake,
yes.
You said you were using lights, but there was a good bit of distance between those lights. They weren't close.
Yes. Well, it was just enough. So I had a little bit of power with me. That was a 400 watt-second light, and that was enough.
What kind of umbrella did you have? Or did you?
Sorry?
Did you have an umbrella, an octopus?
That was, if I remember, that was taken quite a while ago. If I remember, that was a bare head because it was a little bit windy, yeah.
Hi, I just have one question. Do you use Photoshop or Lightroom to edit your photos?
Yes. I use Lightroom to edit my weddings, so to color correct and provide contrast and global adjustments. And then for the portraits, especially the ones that look a little bit more worked on, I use Photoshop to retouch, yeah.
For the enhanced portraits taken outside, do you usually just work with one light? And also, do you use, what type of modifier do you use?
Okay, if it's outside, I try to make my life as simple as possible, and it's usually one light. For that shot that we mentioned before, it was just a bare head. But since Godox made the AD300 Pro with the collapsible softbox, I use the collapsible softbox.
For your photo editing, do you, for your retouching, I should say, how much goes into weddings as well? Like, do you bring the same amount that you would bring, say, on like a studio shoot or a fashion shoot into your wedding portrait?
I used to, and I nearly burnt out and quit. So I stopped that. Now what I do is I use Lightroom only for the gallery that I give to the client, and then anything that is going to be printed, I retouch. But let's say that I'll spend no more than 5 to 10 minutes just cleaning up a few things.
Yeah, hi, 2 questions. One, in relation to that, about how much post-production time do you give to a wedding? That's one question. The other one, for me, this is the most important session I've been to because after years and years and years of schlepping around Dynalights, and I usually go with like 6 heads and 3 packs, I just can't bear it anymore. So I'm about to shell out on Godox, and I just want to get a good idea about what I should shell out on.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, go down to see Godox, tell them Sarah sent you. Okay, so if I remember correctly, these are about 300-something euros. That's what I remember paying. I think this one is about the same. So this is twice the power. It's about the same price, but you've got more portability with this one. And I think the 300 is a little bit more. Maybe for, I don't know. You need to ask them because I can't remember.
Last question. Does this have replaceable batteries so you can bring
Yes.
batteries and pop them in and out?
Yes, and the batteries they do have, and also these have the same size batteries, so they work for each other. No, sorry, not this one. This one. These two have the same batteries.
Yeah, hi. Hello?
Yes.
I was wondering, with your 3-point lighting,
Yes.
do you just set the power on those and leave it at that, or are you adjusting all night?
No, I'm usually, I'll set things up, I'll take a few test shots, and then I'm good for the night. Yeah. I think you had another question as well.
Coming up, we got the mic coming, hold on.
It was about how much time I spend editing a wedding. I used to spend what felt like years editing a wedding. Since Imagine AI, I'm not even kidding, if you haven't heard of Imagine AI and you shoot weddings, go and find them. Come and find me, I will give you 1,500 free edits. That's about 2 weddings for free, and you can try it out. Now it takes me between 2 and 5 hours maximum.
Woo.
So what are your tips on making the refresh rates on your batteries quicker, like the capacitor refresh rates? Because I know that if you shoot quickly, they will get darker. So is it just the lights you're using, or are you using lesser power with more lights? How do you do that?
Yeah, if you want to shoot fast, so I don't. I tend to, I never shoot burst mode. I don't just fire away. I wait for the right moment. So this isn't something that I have to deal with, but logically, I would suggest just use the lowest power you can. So maybe up your ISO, and then you can use a lower power, and that should refresh it. But really, my advice would be slow down.
Hello. Yeah, for the reception, do you usually use the 3 flashes bare bulb, or do you use some kind of reflector on?
I've tried various things. So Godox has on the round head attachment little magnetic domes and grids. I've tried both, and I've ended up just going with bare head. Looks, it's fine.
Okay, this is the last question. Then we're going to take it from, we'll take her outside. Okay.
yeah, I will be at the meet and greet station, so you can come and chat.
Yeah, hi Sarah, I'm from Manchester.
Hello.
Not so far from where you grew up.
Hello.
So I wanted to ask you, when you're setting up the 3 light stands, do you feel like you have to try and avoid getting them into the, into the frame, or it doesn't look too ugly?
I try to place them in, in an unobtrusive spot as possible, also where guests are not going to fall over and hurt themselves. I don't want to go there. So I try to put them in an unobtrusive spot, and then sometimes I might have to retouch them out. But I try to shoot around them if I can.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah. Really appreciate it. Again, another round of applause.